Let's be honest, when headlines exploded about Meghan stepping out in a reported $37,850 designer dress at a high-profile gala, the internet didn't just react, it ignited. And not because the dress wasn't beautiful. Not because the event wasn't prestigious. But because of what it represents. In a time when she and Prince Harry continue to speak about compassion, equality, financial independence, and humanitarian causes, critics are asking, does a nearly $40,000 gown align with that message? Or does it fuel the exact image problem they've been fighting for years? This isn't about fashion, it's about optics, branding, and credibility. First, let's talk about the number itself. $37,850. That's not speculation about a vague, expensive dress. That's a reported figure tied to the designer label and custom detailing associated with the piece. For context, that's more than the average annual salary in many parts of the world. It's enough to fund multiple scholarships. Enough to support small community initiatives. So when someone who consistently positions herself as socially conscious steps out in that price range, people are going to talk. Not because she can't afford it, but because of what message it sends. And this is where the criticism gets louder. Meghan has often spoken about authenticity, relatability, and modernizing public life. Yet critics argue that appearances like this feel very traditional Hollywood elite: red carpet, couture, luxury branding. There's nothing illegal or immoral about wearing high fashion. But when your public narrative emphasizes service, humility, and impact over image, the disconnect becomes a conversation. That conversation isn't gossip, it's about consistency. Another layer that stirred reaction is the air appearance element, the way the event was covered and amplified. Media coverage highlighted the dress's cost almost immediately. Fashion breakdown accounts identified the designer within hours. And instead of focusing solely on the cause of the gala, much of the online discussion shifted to the price tag. That shift matters. Because when the fashion becomes the headline, the mission gets buried. Critics argue that a strategically chosen look could have reinforced the event's purpose instead of overshadowing it. Now here's where it becomes more complicated. Meghan has previously criticized excessive media scrutiny, especially around her wardrobe during her royal years. She spoke openly about feeling unfairly targeted. So when headlines now spotlight the price of her gown, some observers see irony. They question whether lessons about media optics were truly absorbed or whether high-impact fashion remains part of a deliberate strategy. Is the luxury aesthetic a branding tool? Or is it an unavoidable byproduct of celebrity culture? Let's be clear, celebrity galas operate in a luxury ecosystem. Designers loan pieces. Stylists negotiate placements. Sometimes the retail value isn't even what was paid out of pocket. That's important context. But here's the catch: the public rarely separates loaned couture from personally purchased luxury. What they see is a price tag and a persona. And in an era of economic strain globally, perception is powerful. Optics can either elevate credibility or chip away at it. Critics also bring up the broader financial narrative surrounding the Sussex brand. Since stepping back from royal duties, Meghan and Harry have signed major deals: streaming platforms, publishing contracts, speaking engagements. They've framed this as building independent income streams. So when a high-value wardrobe moment happens, some interpret it as reinforcing a celebrity-first identity rather than a service-first one. Again, not illegal, not scandalous, but politically and socially sensitive. Supporters, of course, argue the opposite. They say successful women should not be shamed for wearing luxury. They argue that Meghan is operating within the same Hollywood environment as everyone else. They point out that male public figures rarely face scrutiny for the cost of their suits or watches. That's a fair counterpoint. There is often a gendered element in fashion criticism. But here's the nuance: scrutiny intensifies when someone's brand leans heavily on moral messaging. The stronger the virtue narrative, the stronger the expectation of alignment. And that's why this story resonated. It isn't really about silk, tailoring, or a designer label. It's about alignment between words and visuals. When your speeches center compassion and accessibility, a $37,850 visual can create cognitive dissonance. Some viewers shrug it off. Others see contradiction. And in today's digital age, contradiction spreads fast. So where does that leave us? Not in scandal territory. Not in conspiracy land. But in a very real discussion about image management in the age of personal branding. Meghan is no longer a working royal bound by protocol, she's a global media figure building a legacy. Every appearance is strategic. Every outfit communicates something. And when the message appears mixed, audiences react. That reaction isn't necessarily hatred, it's accountability in the court of public opinion. This moment will likely pass, as most celebrity fashion controversies do. But it adds to an ongoing narrative tension around authenticity, luxury, and advocacy. And whether you admire her or criticize her, one thing is undeniable: Meghan knows how to command attention. The question is whether that attention is always aligned with the causes she wants front and center. And that's where part 2 gets even deeper, because when you start analyzing timing, public relations strategy, and past statements about media fairness, the conversation becomes less about address and more about long-term brand consistency.